Hey guys, Biggs here, and in today's video we are back with our newest build, the 1980 Honda CB750C that we're going to be swapping this engine into the half-scale NasKar. In the last video we began reassembling this thing after a short hiatus after running into an issue with the studs. So if you guys didn't see last video, basically what happened is when I took it all off, the little stud extractor that I used, this tool right here, ended up destroying every single thread on every single stud. But I was able to get them repaired, but I was still down 2 studs because I had to cut 2 of them in order to get off the head. Now, yes, I probably just could have pulled out the engine and saved all these studs by that, but I usually take the hardest route to do something. So what I did in order to fix that was I put 2, makeshift studs that I made with threaded rod. I cut them to length and everything like that, and they work perfectly, but according to a ton of you guys from the last video in the comments, a big majority of you said that the threaded rod is not going to be a good long-term way to keep this engine together because it's going to stretch and cause even more issues. Now, some of you also said that it'd probably just be fine because it's only 2 of them, but I thought of a solution that probably would work best. So if you guys don't know, a complete new head stud set for this is around $200, which is a lot. And I'm not going to spend that much money onto an engine that I don't even know if it's good or not. This thing could start up and the whole bottom end could be shot. I really have no idea. It's been sitting for 20 years. I mean, some serious stuff could have happened. So my solution to this is I'm going to continue with the threaded rods in there for now. I'm just going to use them to see if it will run, which would be perfectly fine, but once I know that it will run, I'm being optimistic that it will, I'm going to take them out and replace them, all of these studs, with ARP head studs, which is going to be the best ones. I think that's the best solution. So once again, once I know this runs, it's going to be getting a full head stud set, so it's going to be mint. So in last video I left off right before we began timing it because honestly, I didn't really know what to do and I was not able to get the cam chain onto the camshaft. And I asked you guys and it seemed like a lot of you guys didn't know, and also some of you have totally been shut down with your projects because of not being able to get the chain onto the cam gear. But luckily, after a ton of research, and I think actually one of you may have commented this, I went through it, I didn't see it, but I could have sworn I got a notification and it said it. But what I'm gonna do is, I already went ahead and did it. So there are 2 bolts that hold on the cam gears onto the camshaft. They mount up right there and there. And then you can slide it off and the cam gear will drop down just a little bit more until it has just enough room to get onto the gear. And I also was able to figure out the tensioner a little bit. So what I need to do is pull up on that little tiny lip right there and then lock it in place with the top lock nut on the tensioning bolts, and that should give us a little bit more leeway with the chain as well. And hopefully by the end of this video, I would like to attempt the first start on it. If everything goes to plan, I mean, all we basically need to do is time it, which should be relatively quick. I mean, I think I understand the whole gist of it. And once again, this is my first time ever working on a dual overhead cam 4-cylinder engine, so I'm learning as I'm doing it. And along with that, I also need to throw in the carburetors. I'm not going to really bother bolting up the exhaust just because I don't really need that to be on to see if it runs, and once I know it runs, it's coming right out of the bike anyway, so it should be completely fine like that. And then a couple small minor things like the coils and the gas tank and everything like that. But this should be back together in no time. So guys, without further ado, let's get started on working on this thing and begin by timing it. Just finished up getting the cam chain onto the exhaust cam gear. So now I just want to show you guys it's spinning over. Obviously this side isn't even on yet and this side isn't completely held down. What I need to do is just take both of these side out, put some Loctite on it, and then put them back down, and then along with the rest of them, pretty much same procedure, and then torque them down to about 19 foot-pounds, and then we can move on to this side. But I just want to show you guys that nothing is hitting at all. None of these valves are hitting any of the pistons, so it's timed awesomely. And that noise you're hearing is just the starter spinning. We're turning it counterclockwise. So everything feels really, really good. I'm gonna put this thing back at top dead center, so when I do the intake side, it's not out of time. Okay, so the marking lines up perfectly right there. And what it says is for the number 1 cylinder cam lobes to face towards the spark plug. So this side is good to go. Holy voice crack. And now I just need to do this side. Alright guys, so the torque wrench that I have is this big one right here. And apparently it can do like 10 to 150 foot-pounds, as you guys can see right there, but I was kind of skeptical about using it because it is pretty long and these bolts are very tiny. And as I was tightening it, I set it to 19. It just kept going, and I did not want to snap this bolt or strip it or anything like that. So I backed it back out and everything. And what I'm going to do is go buy a smaller one, because this one is way too big for what I'm doing right here. I mean, it was good for the head studs and everything, but not good for the camshaft holders. And, you know, I definitely want to make sure that these are right, because basically, you know, the camshaft is spinning in there. And if it's too loose, then that thing's just gonna wobble apart. And if it's too tight, then it might not spin that great. So definitely want to make sure it's all good to go with that. So I'm gonna go ahead to Harbor Freight, because, you know, that's where I get all my tools and I love their stuff. And honestly, I think their torque wrenches are perfectly fine. Just this one is too big for the job. So I'm gonna go head out there right now, then we'll be back and working on this. Ugh. So I just made it back from Harbor Freight and got the new torque wrench. So let's get started from where we left off. I just need to finish up torquing all of these along with putting on the rest, and then we can continue on with installing the next cam. So guys, I just finished up installing this side of the cam, and I gotta say, that chain went on very, very easily, so I'm super happy with that. But one thing that is a slight issue is, you guys may have saw that I didn't use the torque wrench, and that is because for whatever reason, the torque wrench just kept snapping these bolts. I mean, I lowered it down to like 9 foot-pounds, and it just like did not like it. This one snapped, I got a new bolt for it, and that one's all good to go. Then I went overhead to this one with even a lower torque spec, and this one snapped as well. So this one is the only one that isn't tightened right now, so I am gonna have to go ahead and get a new one of those. But for now, I mean, it's not like we're gonna be starting it tonight anyway, and the sun is beginning to set, and I need all Loctite and everything to dry, and I still have some stuff to do, so I just plan on starting it tomorrow, and we still should be able to do that just once I get those new bolts. But what I went ahead and did is just snug them up a little bit. I mean, I use Loctite on all of them. I mean, that's what it says to do in the owner's manual. It should be perfectly fine in there. But what I want to do right now is to turn the engine over by hand, and I pray that there is no interference at all between the piston and the valves, and then if there isn't, then we should be good to go from there. Alright, here we go. First time turning over the engine with both cams in it. Alright, there we go. Just made one full revolution. Everything still feels really good. And now it is at top dead center, and both of the number 1 cylinder lobes are still facing in, so everything is still good to go with that, so I am pumped. I do gotta say that I think timing this engine was easier than timing like a single overhead cam dirt bike engine. Like, for whatever reason, just way more simpler. It is a little bit of work just because of the amount of bolts that there are, but other than that, it's not really that tricky. And I mean, the chain was a little bit tricky in the beginning, but once you just figure it out, then you're good to go from there. And speaking of chain, I do need to go ahead and lower down, you can't really see it, it's right there, that little part that we raised up in the beginning when we put it on. Basically just what I have to do is loosen the adjusting lock nut, and that will go back down and tension the chain. Same goes for the chain going across. Even though it is relatively tight, I just need to tighten up that bolt so it doesn't come loose. So both timing chain tensioners are now nice and tightened down. And as I was just like standing here, kind of just thinking, I think tomorrow when I try and start it, I'm gonna leave the carburetors off and I'm just gonna spray in some starter fluid or whatever, gas, whatever it may be, into each hole. Because honestly, I don't trust these carburetors at all to really see if this thing will run. I'd rather just pretty much just directly spray it in there and know that it's getting fuel and receiving it into the combustion chamber. So that's definitely what I'm going to do. If you guys haven't seen what these carburetors used to look like, I mean, I did clean them up and free them all up and everything, but still, they're kind of finicky. And when this thing was first together and we did the first attempt on trying to start it, they were leaking out. They just were not working well at all. So I think manually spraying it in would just be way better. And if it just fires up, just a quick vroom noise, then I trust it. I mean, it has the new rings and everything, so I don't really need to worry about any of that. And I might go ahead and do a compression test on it just before I pull it out, just to make sure everything's good to go on that. But before I end it off for tonight, I'm just gonna hook up the coils and everything, tuck them all back into where they need to be, and then tomorrow we'll finish everything up. Basically just get the new bolts for it, tighten that all down, throw on the valve cover and these side covers on both there, and then it'll be time to fire it up. Overnight I'll probably just throw it on the trickle charger, because last time, if you guys remember as well, this battery wasn't really holding a great voltage rate for a long time, so want to make sure that that's all good to go for tomorrow as well. Cylinder 4 goes from coil number 2 on the farthest side, which is a little odd. Coil 1 goes there. Then coil 3 goes to cylinder 2, which has a loose spark plug. Okay, there we go. Finally, cylinder 3. Finally, to end off tonight, I'm just going to throw on this side cover right here, which shows the markings for top, dead center, and everything like that, which we don't need anymore because this thing's timed. So just throw it on real quick, just has 3 screws. I'm just going to leave this off until tomorrow because I would like to turn over the engine by hand just a couple more times just to get everything cycling, like the oil and everything like that, before I go full blast with the electric start. I want to make sure everything is perfectly lubed up so when it runs, nothing will run dry and cause any damage. So guys, the final little cover is now on, and I'm going to be ending it off for tonight. Tomorrow is the big day. I cannot wait. I am super like optimistic. I think that this thing will run. May have seemed that I may have rigged some things together here and there, but honestly, this is probably like the most organized rebuild I've done, and as I do each and every bike, like every couple months, I just learn from my mistakes every time, and you guys also teach me in the comments because you guys have done a lot of these as well. But anyway guys, I'll catch you all tomorrow on the big day when we attempt to fire this thing up for the first time on the fresh rebuild. So guys, we are back here the next day, and I just picked up some starter fluid with some upper cylinder lubricant, which is some nice stuff, and also the new hardware. I've got a couple extra, you know, because it can't hurt. So right now, what I'm just going to do real quick is just slap on the, new bolt real quick and snug it down and everything. Then I'll just throw on the valve cover, throw on that cover so we can have spark, and then it will already be time to fire it up. So let's get started. Alrighty, so I just finished up putting on the new hardware and everything is all tightened down. So now, as I said before, time for the valve cover and just that little side cover. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. The entire engine is all back put together, and I just shifted the bike over to the side because it is pretty much time to start it. I'm very optimistic that it will run, and if it does start, it's going to be loud because the exhausts are not hooked up. My only worry that maybe I might think it might not start, it's just once again my fear of timing, because if you're off by pretty much one tooth, everything could go wrong. But I'm pretty sure just by turning it over by hand, I did it correctly. So I actually forgot to put the battery on the trickle charger last night. So I'm gonna have to wait a little bit until I really start it, but figure just be a couple seconds. So I'm gonna hook that up real quick, just so I don't lose voltage, because I'm sure it's not gonna fire right up. And then we will be back when we attempt to start this thing up for the first time in 20 years.
A few moments later.
So it was just a little bit while later, and I let the battery get some more juice in it. And it is officially time to fire this thing up, so I'm not gonna delay this anymore. Let's go ahead and try this. Alright, here we go, sticking the key in for the first time in what seems like in forever. I'm just gonna blip the start button real quick, just to make sure that everything sounds okay. Alright, sounds pretty good. It seems like it might be a little bit low on voltage. I mean, I didn't really let it charge for too long. Probably like 45 minutes, half an hour or so, but I'm going to spray in the starter fluid, put in some earplugs that I have right here, and just pray. Oh, we got a fire! Oh God! Well, it was firing, alright. Okay, hold on. We just had a fire. Let me turn off the key, make sure it's out. Okay, it's out. Woo! Alright, it fires! Woo! That's a good sign, I guess. A little sketchy that it just went up in flames a little bit right here. I think it's because I got some starter fluid up on the boots, and when it backfired, it hit that starter fluid that was just laying there and ignited. So I'm gonna try and spray it a little bit more deeper this time, maybe see if I have a nozzle that can get, really to the back of it, and then we'll try it again. So I don't have a low nozzle that fits this, it just falls right out, doesn't fit. So I'm just gonna stick it in there and just spray it in the back as far as I can without, getting it on the boots, and then that should be a little bit better. I also put a little jug of water right here, just in case that there is another fire. I can just pour it on it if it gets, out of hands, which I pray it doesn't. Let's try round 2. Dang it, that battery. But it fired pretty good right there. Definitely 1,000 times better than how it was. I know obviously hasn't done a complete vroom noise yet, but we're getting there. Probably just needs to get some heat in there. It's been a long time. Alright, so I'm gonna give this one more shot before I actually let the battery charge up. And I don't want to flood this thing with starter fluid, because starter fluid isn't the best thing for engines. It's just, see if it'll run. And that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, I think it's time to take a break. It is time to take a break. Note to self, and for you kids at home learning from my mistakes, because I do make quite a bunch, do not spray starter fluid in it while it is cranking up if your engine shoots flames out the intake. Maybe I should have put on those carburetors. But I am pretty confident right now. If it doesn't really, if I can't get it to really make a pure vroom noise, then I might throw on the carburetors and use them as a choke. I might need a little bit of a choke to help it out. So I'll catch you guys back once the battery is charged up, and hopefully I don't burn down the shed.
2 hours later.
So guys, it's like 2 hours later from the last clip, and the battery I still have charging up. But as you guys may notice, the gas tank and the carburetors are now on. I just gotta fill it up real quick, just with enough fuel to really test it. I'm going to take some safety precautions this time, like don't spray it while it's cranking over. I'm still gonna spray a little bit just into the carburetors just to get it started, but I'm gonna have the choke plates closed and everything like that. And then I also have the throttle hooked up over here. But I'm gonna be wearing gloves, safety goggles, as I just said, and hopefully we don't have another fire. The only fire I wanna see coming out of this thing is out the exhaust. Not insane flames, but just to show that it's running. Alrighty guys, so the fuel is flowing. I just sprayed a tiny bit of starter fluid in where the chokes are. So now I'm going to turn on the key, and I'm going to try and operate the throttle and the start button at the same time, which is a little bit tricky, but should be able to do it. So here we go. Alright, I don't want to burn out the starter, but it is so close to starting. It just needs like a quick vroom and then it's there. Alright, so I just let the starter cool down a little bit, so I want to try again. Let me just double check. Okay, yep, it's in the run position on the kill switch. I don't know, it's hard to tell. Woo, it definitely smells like it's firing though. These carburetors really, I mean, it's just leaking like crazy on one of them. Let me turn off the fuel. So guys, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell right now. I think it'll run perfectly fine. I think that this engine is complete, which I'm really happy about. But I'm pretty sure these carburetors just are not functioning properly. I mean, they are leaking like crazy underneath. And I don't think that they're supplying the proper amount of fuel, because when I first have starter fluid sitting in there, it sucks it up and then it goes to fire up. So if this thing had the right amount of fuel getting to it, I believe it would run perfectly fine. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this engine is ready to come out. Now, I'm probably gonna take some steps, you know, to make sure that it is actually ready, like a spark test, a compression test. But if there's good spark, good compression, which there should be, I mean, this thing's I just rebuilt it, obviously, you know. You guys know. Then the only issue should be improper amount of fuel. When I had the carburetors off before and I just put in the starter fluid, I don't know how well the camera picks it up, because I'm pretty sure it like deafens, I guess that's the word, like high noises. But when I just did the starter fluid, it was like firing really well. But once it was out of starter fluid, obviously it didn't fire anymore. So if I just had a consistent amount of fueling, like good carburetors, then I believe it would run. So I might have to go ahead and order a new set. I mean, I just cleaned these, but they just probably aren't that good anymore. Or I could look into a rebuild kit for them, but honestly, they're pretty old. I mean, they got some wear in them, that's for sure. And the slides, if you guys remember, were completely corroded and stuck in there, and I cleaned them up to my best abilities, but still I don't think they're working properly. So one last attempt I'm gonna do is to open up the chokes and see if that makes any difference at all. Maybe it needs some more air, who knows. But I'm definitely gonna go with that it just needs better carburetors. Alright, so I just opened up the chokes, so let's try one more time. Now, I'm not going to do that again because it is currently relatively laid out, and that was insanely loud, and I didn't have earplugs in, and my ears kind of vibrated, but it ran. That is awesome. First time in 20 years it's ever had any sign of life, and it just came in strong. So the issue was that it needed some air. Now it stopped running. It actually was running a good bit. It might have sucked some fuel out of the bowls on the carburetor, which may lead me to believe that these carburetors may be salvageable, but still I'm probably better off just getting a whole new set. But I am so happy. So guys, it's pretty smoking here, so I'm gonna have to end this off quick before I choke or whatever, I don't know. I am so happy that we were able to get pure life out of this bike for the first time in 20 years. That is so crazy. The rebuild was a success. My first time ever working on a 4-cylinder dual overhead cam engine, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. Google for helping me out as well. Seriously, these papers were a huge help. And just not giving up. I almost gave up right there, but woo, just open up those chokes. Man, that thing cranked to life. But anyway guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned not to, if your engine backfires flames out the exhaust, that's not a great idea to spray starter fluid in it while shooting flames out. I got super lucky there. The whole shed could have burnt down, the bike could have burnt down, I could have died, I don't know. But lesson learned, I will never do that again. But follow my social medias, they will be on the outro of this video. Instagram and Snapchat I use the most. But thanks for watching, please subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends about the channel. And stay tuned for more awesome things coming to this build soon.